Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here. Today I thought I would sit down and talk to you guys about something that has happened to me. Now this happened, oh God, 8 years ago now. 8 years ago? Maybe it was only 7 years ago because it happened after the new year. So this happened in the winter/spring of 2012. And at that time, I was living in Vancouver going to university. And where I lived, it was kind of the older part of North Vancouver. So I was really close to the water, but like often more of a residential section. And the house that I lived in was originally one massive house. And then my landlord, who was a contractor, bought it and split it into 4 living spaces. So my landlord lived above me. I lived on the ground floor. And then next to me on the other side of the ground floor was this adorable little old lady. And then above her was this older gentleman. And it was gorgeous, completely updated, completely newly renovated, totally nice, gorgeous little house. And it was like a 10-minute walk to everything. It was a 2-minute walk to my bus stop, and I could get on the bus and go to the mall, and then I could come home, and grocery stores were right nearby. It was perfect. Now, up the street from us was this gigantic old mansion. And right, like the way that it's laid out, the street goes through the middle, and then there's the mansion on one side and this little tiny cottage on the other that I eventually learned was the gardener's residence. But this mansion was built back in like the 1920s. So it was kind of the like ritzier part of Vancouver. And then a block, 2 blocks down from me. So this mansion is 2 blocks up from me. The other house is 2 blocks down from me, is this old 2-story Victorian house that they abandoned in the 1930s. And I'm talking like everything is still there, abandoned in the 1930s. There are still old newspapers, old books, baby clothes, like everything in this house. Of course, not anymore. I went back a couple of years ago and somebody had bought it and they were raising it up and refixing it. And it probably looks gorgeous now. But it kind of just gives you an idea of the layout. So I also lived right across the street from a park, and there was quite a few parks in that area. So it was pretty wooded. It was pretty residential. There wasn't a lot of traffic. And I remember being there. My boyfriend at the time had stayed back in the Yukon after we came back up for Christmas. And I went home to Vancouver to finish off my school year. So I was home by myself, and I had never gotten weird vibes in that house, really. I got a lot of weird vibes from the smaller of the 2 bedrooms. And the way that my house was set up was you entered into the house, and right in front of you was the living room and like a little dining room area. I had a galley-style kitchen off to my left. And then there was a hallway down the right with the bathroom on one side, a small, tiny bedroom, and then at the back of the house, the entire back section of my area was the master bedroom with a giant walk-in closet. And I always got kind of weird vibes from one corner in the master bedroom, but I always got extremely weird vibes from the little bedroom. And for the first little while after my boyfriend had left, I didn't like sleeping in the master bedroom by myself. I was kind of a little weirded out by it. And I wasn't really sure why. And I figured it was just because I was so used to him being there that maybe I was just being, overly sensitive about not having anybody in the house anymore, except the fish. And so I decided that I would try and sleep in the smaller bedroom to see if maybe that would kind of help a little bit. And then if that was the case, I'd just move into that room for the rest of the semester and be done with it. We didn't have roommates or anything, so the entire space was mine to do whatever I wanted with. And I remember the first night I tried sleeping in that room, and I think I lasted like half an hour. I got the lights off, I got into bed, and I was laying there, and my entire body just filled with dread. And I mean, that like sense of dread where you feel like you're going to die. And I couldn't figure out why I was feeling this. There was no reason for it. It's not like I'd been watching scary movies. There was no reason in my mind to be acting this way rationally. And so I got up and I got out of the room and I went back into the master bedroom and I went to sleep. Ended up sleeping there for quite a while. And then I had a really bad dream. And all I really remember of it was that I just didn't like being in there anymore. So for about 2 weeks, I slept on the couch in the living room. And I have always done that. Even when I was living at home, like I would go sleep in the basement because sometimes my room was freaking me out too much, or I just had a lot of anxiety. And for whatever reason, going and sleeping on a couch somewhere in a like more public space made me feel a lot safer, I guess. And I remember I had been already sleeping on the couch for quite some time. And I think it was probably a week and a half into like actually sleeping on the couch every single night. I would leave the TV on, and I would leave it on the country music channel. And I would just leave it on like really low volume playing, because at like 6, 7 a.m. when my alarms would go off, it would already be playing like the country morning mix, which was like an hour long of country music.
3 hours later.
Okay. After a weird series of events just now, all of my fully charged batteries all just completely died. So I had to wait a little bit for my batteries to recharge enough to finish this video. So we'll get back into it. As I was saying, it was about 2 weeks into me staying on the couch. And I had a dream a couple of nights before that didn't really make sense to me, and I was a little kind of skeptical of, and I just kind of brushed them off altogether, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then I had the same dream again, and this time it was about a little girl. And what I remember from the dream was walking into the house that I was in, and it was actually my house. Like I could tell that it was the house I was currently living in Vancouver. But it wasn't my house. So what I mean by that is that I actually went in through the front door, not the side door where my door was in real life. And this house was actually the full house as it was before it became the quadplex. And I remember walking into this house, and there was a family living there. There was 2 girls, a mother and a father. And I remember it feeling so familiar, but also so wrong at the same time. And in this dream, I remember walking in, and I remember addressing one of the little girls and asking her about her family and where she was. And she kept answering all of the questions, you know, same thing. She lived in Vancouver. This was her mom and her dad and her sister. And one of the bedrooms was where my little bedroom was in my current place. And I remember walking down to where that section would have been in the house and seeing the room there and feeling really weirded out by it. And then the dream kind of stopped. And I was like, okay, this is a little weird. Like, I'm going to go try and sleep back in the master bedroom. So the next night after that dream, I went back to the master bedroom and decided I was going to try and sleep there. Went back in. Almost the same dream occurred again, But this time, the little girl was in my house as it was in present day. And in my dream, I was laying in bed and I watched her come down the hallway into my bedroom and walk across the bedroom floor, stand at the end of my bed. And I looked at her and I said, "What do you want, honey? Like, what's going on? What's wrong?" And she looked at me in my dream and she said, "I need your help to find us." And I kind of looked at her and I said, "What do you mean? You're standing right in front of me." And I'm the type of person who dreams very vividly, but I also have a lot of self-awareness and sense of control of my dreams. So I knew I was dreaming and I knew this wasn't happening in real time, but it just felt really real to me. And I kind of said, like, "I don't know what you're talking about, honey. Like, you're here in front of me. What do you mean you need me to find you?" And she said, "I need you to find us. Something happened." And I said, "Okay, well, you need to tell me what happened in order for me to help find you." At this point, I was just playing along in my dream of like, okay, my head is just going off in random dreamland. And she started telling me this story about how a guy had come into the house and he hurt her family. And I was like, okay, this is a little weird. Like, this is really involved for one of my dreams out of nowhere. And then the dream ended. So that entire dream was basically her standing at the end of my bed talking to me about what had happened to her. And she explained that the guy had come in and he had gone and hurt her mom and hurt her dad and then took her and her sister and hurt them somewhere else. And she just kept saying, "They hurt us, they hurt us, they hurt us." And I was like, okay, well, maybe, it was just somebody got hurt in that sense. Again, I woke up feeling really on edge the next day, went to school, came home. I decided I was going to try sleeping on the couch again. This time around, she came back and it started off in present day, my apartment layout. And this time, the way that the couch was, it was against the wall at the very end of the hallway. So I could see the door to the master bedroom from the couch. And I'm laying there on the couch and I can clearly see her in my dream coming down the hallway at me. And I'm not talking like just a normal person walking down the hallway. I'm talking your typical horror movie, absolutely terrifying. She is glitching out down the hallway. I was like, okay, my brain is really being overactive right now. And so she glitches down the hallway to right where the doorway is to get into the living room. I'm like, cool. Okay. What do you want, sweetie? She said, "I want to show you what happened." And I said, okay, sure. At this point, again, like, I'm a little freaked out, but I'm still just like, okay, whatever. Like, this is just a dream. And this little girl then begins to show me what happened to her family. And so I was seeing it from her perspective of the guy coming into the house, attacking her mom and her dad, attacking her sister, and then attacking her. He then drug them into the living room after murdering her parents in front of her and her sister. Blood all over the walls. Just horrific. And then he takes her and her sister and he takes them somewhere and he disappears with them. And I wake up. My dream ends. And I'm like, okay, at this point, I'm getting frustrated because this seems to be a reoccurring thing throughout the last few nights, and it's not ending. It's not finishing. So the next night, I go back and I lay on the couch and I'm laying there and I'm wondering like if I'm having fever dreams or if I'm sick or if I'm just not getting enough sleep. And it was none of that. I was getting enough sleep. I was getting 8 hours. I was eating properly. I was like well rested when I woke up. It was just these dreams were really plaguing me. So I go to sleep. She comes back, glitches down the hallway again, stops in the doorway. And this time she's soaking wet. And she's in the nightgown that I had seen her in the night before. And I stared at her and I said, honey, you need to tell me what's wrong. You need to tell me what's going on. Again, she shows me from her perspective what happened. And so her and her sister get dragged out of the house. And I'm not 100% sure where in the area that I live where he took them to. I couldn't recognize it to what it looked like to me in present day. But whatever happened, he drug her and her sister out, ended up killing them both, and tossing them in a body of water. From what I could tell, from how I felt after I saw all of that, she doesn't feel at rest because she hasn't felt like she had been found. And I remember actually waking up. I remember like waking up and actually like physically sitting up and checking the time and going into the kitchen. And like, I was very conscious that I was awake. I even texted a friend, and asked him how he was. I kind of like talked to him for a little bit because I was trying to process what she had just shown me. And I wasn't telling him any of this, but I was just like talking to him because I knew he would be up, and I was making sure that I was actually consciously aware of the fact that I was awake again and that this wasn't still part of the dream. I finally kind of calmed myself down. I lay back down and I'm facing the hallway on the couch, and the TV is on, and I think Reba was playing on the TV. And I remember laying there and I remember thinking to myself and then saying out loud, if you're here, I need you to show me that you're here while I'm awake, not while I'm asleep. And within an instant, I watched as she came glitching down the hallway so fast that she swooped right up to my face in the blink of an eye, scared the ever-loving heck out of me because she did it so fast, was soaking wet, and I actually got so physically startled that I turned around and faced the back of the couch and tried to convince myself that I was just having a fever dream and that was it. After that, I saw her a couple of more times. I was so disturbed about the information that I was getting that I didn't ever really look into it. I didn't look to see if there were any missing persons cases or anything like that, simply because I just didn't want to believe that it was something like that happening. I had been very disconnected by this time with the paranormal, and with things like that happening to me. So I was just like, nope, you know what? It's an overactive imagination. My brain is just going a million miles a minute, and it's not anything. As the years went by and I kept thinking about her and I kept thinking about my dream and what she had been showing me, I eventually told my now roommate about what had happened. She thought it was a little off too. And very like horror movie-esque. And so I was like, I kind of started dismissing it again. And I was like, you know what? No, like I had been watching a whole bunch of horror movies like the 3 weeks before this had happened with one of my friends. And maybe my brain was just on this like horror movie track. And, that's all it was. But it really bothered me more so once it got to a few years ago and I hadn't been thinking about it, and I had a dream again, and I had a dream about that little girl. And this time around, it went through the whole scenario all over again, straight from happy-go-lucky family through the entire horror scene, straight to the end. But at the very end of the dream, she showed up to me and she looked me in the eyes, and the only thing that came out of her mouth was "thank you for listening." I woke up crying. And I'm not actually really sure what happened. I don't know if the bodies were found. I didn't see any news articles. I didn't hear anything from my friends in Vancouver. I didn't decipher anything of it. So I don't know if her body was finally found or if for some reason or somehow she ended up moving on. But it really solidified that this was actually somebody trying to tell me something and trying to get help from me. And I felt so bad that I didn't try and do more in the moment to help her. I'm not really sure what else to say. I have had plenty of dreams of stuff like this. Not that gruesome, but along the same lines of people trying to contact me in my dreams or leaving me messages, or just prophetic dreams of things happening. So that was my story time for today, about my haunted house in Vancouver. And I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Please leave me a comment if you have any theories or if you've had anything similar happen to you. I would love to hear your stories as always. If you haven't, please give this video a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and remember, I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.